people will actually pay us to do this stuff, because she was very helpful getting Bake Media started as well. And then it was like, I mean, what do we have to lose? Like, let's make it a business. Let's actually do this outside of the church and kind of see what happens. And then 4 or 5 years later, Bake Media is full time, keeping me pretty busy, and I've been loving it pretty much ever since.
Let's talk a little bit about, the corporate job that you had. And, obviously you started Bake Media prior to, getting let go from this job.
Yeah.
And just let's talk about just how that happened. And
when I get a Bake Media job now, or I get revenue from Bake Media, like, I can't just go buy a new camera or a new lens, right? Like, I got to pay my mortgage. Working a corporate job and working on your business at the same time. If I had to do it all over again, what would I do?
today we have Lee Baker in the Creative Den. He's the owner of Bake Media Production. We're going to discuss just how we got started, actually getting fired from his corporate job, dive in full time into business, and just getting clients. It just seems to be busy, seems to be out of state all the time. So we're going to dive into that, talk about how he actually gets clients and how he gets his out of state clients. These are actually questions that I've been wanting to ask him. So I waited till we got on the spot to do that. So in real time, welcome Lee Baker to the Creative Den.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, bro.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm good, man.
Yeah.
Coming off a long, busy week.
Yeah.
And you're glad that, you got some time to do stuff like this.
For sure. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for
for
coming
sure.
on. Let's go right into it, man.
Okay.
So Bake Media Production.
Yep.
How did you get started in that?
Yeah, so I've always been in sort of like a production type role at my church, pretty much ever since I was probably 9, 10 years old, whether it was like at the audio board or doing the slides, right? So I've always been around production for the last, 20-something years. And then I had kind of got a little bit serious at the current church I go to, because when the pandemic happened, we didn't really have like a media presence at all, like no social medias. I think all we had was a website, no live streaming, no nothing. And when the pandemic happened, I had sort of took like a bigger role and responsibility to try to get all those things going. So as the pandemic was going on, we were really pushing forward, getting all this equipment, and I'm just learning. I was encouraged by like so many people at the church that was like, you're really good at this. You should actually like do this for business. And I didn't really think too much of it, because I was still working a corporate job at the time. To me, it was just more of just what I do at church. It's like my service to the church and my service to the Lord. But then, like, as time went on, me and my wife was like, yeah, like, people will actually pay us to do this stuff, because she was very helpful getting Bake Media started as well. And then it was like, I mean, what do we have to lose? Like, let's make it a business. Let's actually, do this outside of the church and kind of see what happens. And then, 4 or 5 years later, Bake Media is full time, keeping me pretty busy, and I've been loving it pretty much ever since.
Nice, bro. Oh, that's really cool. I think that was kind of like, I think I met you, 2 years ago? Something like that.
Yeah, it's probably about 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
I was still getting my feet wet.
Yeah. And now you're blooming, bro.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, man. It's been good to see. So let's talk a little bit about, the corporate job that you had.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously you started Bake Media prior to, getting let go from this job.
Yeah.
And just let's talk about just how that happened and,
Yeah, so I was working a corporate job, and man, I had set my sights on like moving up the corporate ladder. I went to school and I got my degree in like finance and economics. So I wanted to work in the finance space at my corporate job. It's for an insurance company, and I wanted to work in the financial space. So, I had those plans to do that. as time went on, like as I started to get more busy and more leads and clientele for Bake Media, it started to be like a pull from like the corporate job. Like what started out as kind of like a weekend warrior type of thing, then all of a sudden I'm getting gigs on like Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. And, you know, like these odd times, right? So I'm like, man, like now I'm like missing work calls and trying to like manage, you know, being a full-time corporate employee. So as time went on, I had already kind of started to set like a plan, like to take Bake Media full time and leave the corporate job. But I kept getting promoted at the corporate job. So I kept getting promoted and like I started to make more money at the corporate job to the point where I was like, well, why would I quit the corporate job? Because I had got it to a place where I could somewhat manage the two. But I always knew as long as I was doing the two, I probably could never take Bake Media like to its full potential. I would be limited in what I could do. So it was the year of 2023. A couple of months before the year starts, me and my wife Jess will do like a vision board, and we'll write sort of the things that we want to do for the upcoming year. And I had wrote on the vision board to take Bake Media full time by October of 2023. Want to take Bake Media full time. Let's say it was around July. If you would have asked me, was I ready to take Bake Media full time by October? Of course not. Because when you get in corporate checks, you're so comfortable. And while it was a blessing while I was working corporate full time and Bake Media, was all the revenue that I was getting from Bake Media, which is allowed to be reinvested to buy equipment. So it was cool because as I was doing both, I didn't have to rely on Bake Media to feed my family. So I could just buy gear and just get all sorts of stuff. So it all worked out. But then in August of 2023, that's when my job did like a mass layoff, and I was included in that layoff. So then I was like, well, I guess it is time to go full time. Because if you ask me, would I have went full time by October? No, I would not have.
What were some of the things that, looking back now, that would have held you from going full time by then without getting laid off?
I don't know, because when you're getting a corporate check and you start to move up, like you get so comfortable and accustomed to that lifestyle of how much money you're making and the things that you're doing. And so it's just sort of like, why would I leave that, not really knowing what I could make in Bake Media? That's the thing too. It's like, it's not like I had all this revenue and all these clients that could replace the corporate pay. That wasn't the case, because, you know, for the most part, if you don't have any like retainers for especially like for a videography or a media company, you're just kind of feast or famine whether leads are coming in or not.
Right. It's tough, man, for sure. I think it's definitely like a blessing, you know, in a sense of having a job and having a business where your job could take care of your normal life, and the business you reinvested back then, you know, to get all the gear that you needed.
Exactly. And while that was happening, it was great, but it's been a huge adjustment now having Bake Media full time and necessarily not having that other income. It's been a year now, a little over a year now, and it's taken me a while to like understand that, because when I get a Bake Media job now, or I get revenue from Bake Media, like I can't just go buy a new camera or a new lens, right? Like I got to pay my mortgage and I got to pay whatever other bills that I have. So it's been a huge adjustment, but it just takes some time to kind of get into that mode to say, hey, like this is actually now feeding your family,
Right.
and not just feeding your gear closet.
That's cool, man, because nowadays everyone wants to leave their job and just pursue business, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's tough, man. You know, it's tough to do. So I think the best place to be is to have a job where you could also do your business.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like where, obviously it's not like a burnout thing,
Yeah.
but you're able to manage your job, manage your business, have your income from your job, have additional income from your business, reinvest into your business, and use that to start off, you know, eventually when your business gets to a point where it's okay, it has replaced my 9 to 5 plus more, then maybe it's time to look at,
Exactly.
you know, quitting.
Yeah, and like even my job, you know, they were like, because it was virtual, of course, during the pandemic. So that's how I was able to sort of manage the two. But then they were like, hey, starting after Labor Day, I think they made the announcement like June or July. After Labor Day, you got to come in like 2 or 3 days out of the week. And I do a lot of stuff out of town. So right there, I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. Because if I'm in and out of town doing gigs, I can't be in the office. So I had already started to kind of like see. But if you ask me if I still would have quit the corporate job, probably not.
Do you think you would have let the business or just let those clients go and just focus more on in-state clients?
Possibility. Or I would have just tried to get around it somehow with the corporate job. But then it probably would have got so stressful to where I probably would have wound up quitting, but I don't know. That's the thing. And that's why, like, you know, when I got laid off, I wasn't necessarily like frustrated or mad, because I was like, God knows, he knows me and he knows the decisions that I would make. So I always think like, what if I wouldn't have got laid off? I probably would not be where I'm at with Bake Media right now and trying to progress.
It's good. It's good. Okay. What was the toughest part about losing that corporate job and going full-time business?
Yeah, the toughest part, honestly, it wasn't even the money, because like I tell people all the time, when I went full time, and this is why, like, I just love how life happens, because it's like when I got let go of the corporate job, all of a sudden all these big media leads come in. And it's not like I was doing like a crazy bit of like outreach either. It's just, now that I got time and availability, it all works out. So I say that to say it wasn't the money, but there would be times where, like, let's say I didn't have like a week where I didn't really have any shoots, or I didn't really have much going on. You get a sense of like, what is my purpose? Because I'm not necessarily working right now. So then you get in this place of like, almost like not necessarily like what am I here for, but more of like what am I doing? Like, I don't have no shoots today. I'm not working a job right now, like, so to speak, like a 9 to 5. And even though I got jobs in the future, or I might be like editing some projects, but not having like that day to day where you're doing something, it starts to just feel like almost like you're not doing anything. Those days were tough because it's, you know, you become like a stay-at-home dad. So I had to really like focus on, okay, if I am home or if I'm not out in the field all this time, how can I find other ways to help my family, my wife, and our house? So then I became way more involved in like all of my daughter's activities, versus like the first year, my wife had to do all of the like taking her to school and picking her up from school and taking her like to the extracurricular activities and all that stuff, where it flipped to now where I have the time and availability to take her to school, take her to the activities, even if it's like 11 o'clock in the day or at noon, right? Like I have now the time and availability to do that. And I think that's important because I think some parents are like still stuck in like these gender roles. Like the wife does this and the husband doesn't do any of that stuff. Well, that's not the case now because my wife, she wake up and go to a 9-to-5 job just like I was. So I can't put all of that responsibility on her versus back in the day where the wife would stay home all day while the husband went out and did all these things. So I had to really like focus on, okay, how can I help out here at home more than what I would typically do? And that helped me. And I started to, it sounds odd, but you start to do things like clean a house, right? These are things that typically the wife would do. And I kind of found myself doing that because I knew at that time that would help Jess out the most while I wasn't out in the field. But it took me a while to get there, though. There were days where it was just like, what am I doing? And then you try to like create content. It's like, oh, I don't really want to create content. You know what I'm saying? And then, yeah, it took me a while.
For sure. No, I get you because some days I have that as well where it's like, okay. And I talk to my wife. I'm like, yeah, it feels like I haven't done anything. She's like, well, you have.
Right.
You know, you've been doing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
You got all these projects you got to edit.
Right.
And in my head, I'm like, well, I haven't had to shoot in like a week.
Right.
You know? And I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, but there's other stuff that you can do to help with that free time, man.
Yeah, let's go into that because, and I think a lot of times, sometimes us creatives were like heavy into our business, not necessarily heavy on working on the business. You know what I mean? You know what I mean with that? Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we could do. We could focus on lead generation. We could focus on, okay, what's our SOP is, what's our process, you know, focus on all that stuff. Now, you seem to be busy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know that from conversations we have or just, you know, we have a thread between you, me, and Darrell.
Yep.
And, you know, there's always something going on, you know. So how have you either gotten your clients, maintained your client? Okay, let's start from there. Lead generation. Like, what do you do for that?
Yeah, to be honest, man, a lot of it is just like organically word of mouth. The reason why I like the word of mouth is because essentially your work and the other person that's referring you have done half of the work of you getting that client. And, you know, everybody loves a referral, right? And so right now, that's really all I've been really doing and relying on because I feel like I haven't spent enough time on focusing on like, okay, let's say you do go through like some sort of lead generation route. How are you going to be able to handle that workload coming in? And I always refer back to the scripture about like, he won't give you more than you can bear. Well, while that is true, but also I feel like there is a part that we should be doing to prepare for that. And if you don't prepare for that, well, that's why he can't give you more than you can bear because you haven't necessarily prepared to take on more. So that's something that I've been wanting to sort of focus on in the upcoming year is like, okay, you do want to start getting more clients and you do want to start getting different clients with like different budgets and bigger budgets, so to speak, but you haven't necessarily set up a SOP or any sort of route to fully handle that and handle that at a high volume. So right now it's just been word of mouth. But I do want to get more into like some lead generation, whether it's like cold leads or some sort of, but I will say, one thing that I'm going to do, us as filmmakers, we tend to only join like groups of other filmmakers. And while that's cool because you know you get to learn and bounce ideas off each other and help each other out on projects. But if you really want to get good at leads, you have to join groups that doesn't have filmmakers
For sure.
in it.
Yeah.
So that way
You're the only filmmaker.
you're the only filmmaker, and they are going to go to you to get whatever done, whether it's for their business or commercial, whatever that case is. So I did join an organization about 2 years ago, where I'm like one of the only videographers a part of this association. But the association is full of realtors and banks and all these people that own these all sorts of different businesses. I just need to lean more into that and go to like the different meetings and show face and say, hey, this is what I do. How can I help? That's something that I do want to focus on for leads.
Yeah, that's good because that's something I've been trying to do as well. It's getting into like this the meetings between the towns and what is it called? I'm blanking right now.
I know what you mean though.
Yeah. So they have like business meetings. You just go, you be a part of networking groups, you know, and you get to talk to other business owners and just have conversation,
Right.
you know. And I think that's a strategy, you know, in generating a lead. Have you seen that after like let's say you do a shoot, in order to get the referral for the next shoot, do you either have some kind of strategy from this previous client saying, hey, if you know anyone that would need something like this?
I don't.
You don't? Okay.
I need to.
Yeah.
Oh, one of my buddies that owns a business, he is huge on Google review, like huge on it. He sends out a link pretty much after every event that they smash, and just, hey, leave a review. He's seen great success with that. Something that I've been wanting to do. You know, sometimes I do feel weird about, hey, leave me a Google review. You know, it kind of feels like I don't know. To me, it just feels weird. But I got to understand. I got to get past that because it's really for me to get exposure to other people.
Right. Yeah. There's this lady that I listen to. I think she has like a creative agency in Portugal, and they literally do all word of mouth as well. But they have like 6-figure clients, you know,
Yeah.
from all word of mouth. And the way she does it is strategic in the sense that she works with one client right before they're done, says, hey, if there's anyone that you know, please send us our way, kind of thing. And they build it into like their system of like emails to this client. And it feels more organic in the sense that they don't feel pressured, but it's like, you did a good job, so of course I'm going to refer
Right.
it to the next person,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So at that point, it's like your work speaks for itself,
Right.
you know? And I think that's what a lot of creatives would do, is like we focus on the work. We get to a place where our work is good, but it's like there's always a next level we
Right.
could always get to. But
Yep.
we'll get to a place where the work is good, and it's not just about the work or the talent anymore. It now becomes, okay, do I have the ability to actually sell? Do I have the ability to close this thing? You know, and then focusing on that part, you know. And that's why I actually started this podcast, is because I wanted to bring on people that had like experience in that, you know, like just how do you do it in your business? Like, you know, there's different ways to do it. There's different people with different personalities, and they do it in their own way. And I'm just bringing people that I could learn from, honestly,
Right.
you know, people that I've known, people that do it in a different way, and like just having conversations like, okay, you've done this, how did you do it? You know, kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
So let's say you do get a client, you know, they come in word of mouth, you know, what is your sales process?
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, just seeing what they're interested in, but then also like I built this sort of like a pitch deck, so to speak, where it highlights like who I am, what I've done, and then it gives like some examples of some projects that I've shot. Because oftentimes what I found is, especially if you're meeting a person for the first time, they don't know necessarily like your route or expertise in filmmaking, right? Like, you know, they just may know that, hey, you shoot videos. Well, that is so generic, right? So I try to make sure that I send them that after the conversation and say, hey, you know, here's what I've done. Here's some examples. So that way they can kind of get an idea if this is going to be a good fit. And I think right now one of my biggest things is really figuring out Like if it's a good fit for the client and not necessarily just trying to go after the budget. Because you can go after the budget all you want, but if it's just not a good fit between what I can provide and what I can do and my artistic like ability and the way that I'm creative, like if that doesn't work for you, then I'm not going to try to force it to work. And I think that's the big thing that I'm really trying to hone in, because it's like I just don't want to be doing any and everything just to receive the budget, especially if that's not even my lane or my area of expertise.
Yeah, because then it shoots you in the foot, because now, let's say it's not something you're good at, and you go do it, you don't do a good job, then it ruins your reputation.
Right.
And the next person hears about it is like, yeah, he did a terrible job at this shoot.
Right.
You know, when really it's like, there's people out there chasing the bag all the time, just doing whatever. You know, like, I think a big part of understanding your business is knowing your limitations,
Right.
knowing your strengths, but knowing that, okay, this thing, yeah, I could go try to do it, but I'm not gonna really put my all into it because it's not something I want to do anyway. And so, like, understanding that.
But to that point, that's why I think it's important, even for what like me, you, and Rail are doing, is because we also get to learn, like, depending upon what the shoot is. Like, I might know Akin probably should do that shoot. Like, I shouldn't handle it, you know, or Rail should probably do that one. But we get to this point where it's like everybody wants to be competitive or compete against each other because they feel like it's like client stealing, whatever. But, bro, there's plenty of money to go around for everybody. And I think we really have to just lean on each other to handle those things, because you're not necessarily like throwing away the client. Like if I refer to you, I mean, there will still be a connection between me and the client and then you and the client, and that's totally fine. But it's just learning, like, there's other people that could do this really well, and I've gotten really good at that or I'm trying to get really good at that, because at first it's like, yeah, you just take all the gigs. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, yeah, I'll take it. But now it's getting to the point where it's like certain stuff, and I see it, I'm like, you know, hey, I got the perfect person for you. I'll even help, like, oversee the project. Like, even if that client wants to maintain a relationship with me, I'll help oversee it. Like, you know, I'll handle all of that. But as far as like the actual shooting, I know this person would kill it and they can handle it.
That's good. And that's wisdom too, you know, in a sense. Bro, I said no to like 4 shoots last week.
One of them was mine, but it was some other. But he had some other personal stuff to do. It's all good.
No. It was our wedding anniversary coming.
I know,
up.
bro.
Like,
I know. I ain't trying to get between you and
I ain't
and
trying
the
to get
wife,
in
bro.
trouble.
I get it.
I actually have to cancel on the meeting this week because I overbooked myself.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. All right, that's cool, man. So let's go into, you know, you're out of state a lot. You're out of state a lot. This man is at least once or twice a month.
That's what it feels like.
You know, you're gone. So let's talk about the process of that. Like, how do you get those out of state clients? You know, are you a part of a team that does that, or is it just, you know, big production? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so essentially what tends to happen is, let's say a conference is coming into Phoenix and they're having some sort of, whether it's like employee conference or like member-based conference for attendees, you know, to attend and gain insider information on whatever they're teaching. They come to Phoenix, and what we've saw in the industry in the last couple of years is that it's the AV at the hotels are so expensive to run the AV directly from the vendor of the hotel that it's way more cost effective for you to just sub rent from a local AV provider in the city, because it's so expensive at the hotels. So what tends to happen, I have a buddy of mine, he owns a company called Centric Events, and they do all AV, stage, microphones, lights, drape, the whole thing, like to make your conference look really well. but he doesn't necessarily have like a video department, because usually, depending upon the client, they will ask for all the stage and all that stuff, but then they'll also ask, can you record the content? Because they will typically have some sort of like member-based portal where they can upload all of that content, and then their members can always go back and rewatch. And some of them like repurpose the content on social media for like shorts and just small clips. So they'll always typically ask, do you have anybody that can record? So he knows that I have a video production company. So me and him work really well together, where he handles all of the AV side, and then I just bring in all the video gear. So that's how me and him kind of formulate that partnership. But then how we get the out of state is usually when that client comes into Phoenix, we tell them, hey, we travel as well. So wherever you go, we could make it there and provide the same experience that you had in Phoenix in Orlando, Florida. And it's still, which is just crazy, it's good for us, it's still cheaper for that client to bring us out from Phoenix and all of our gear and hotels and flights and per diem plus our whatever rate is than to go with the hotel provider, almost in any state almost. So they're like, and the beauty of that is, you know, we have a client. They have about 3 to 4 conferences a year, and they all like rotate different cities and different states. And for the event manager, it's hard for her to manage going to all these different states and having to like re-explain your event, re-explain what you need, re-explain the format. We know exactly how the conference is going to go. We know exactly what they need. So she doesn't even have to worry about any of that stuff. And we just travel with them wherever they go. And we have a couple of clients that are like that, where wherever they go, they'll just bring us, because it's more cost effective, and we already know their show. So they know we know all the cues. They don't have to explain it. We know exactly what they need, and we try to provide a good service.
Nice. That's awesome, man. That's really cool. Well, I'm a camp operator too, so you know.
Yeah.
I got my passports and my stuff.
Yeah,
ready.
man. Yeah, we you know, and the cool thing is, it's like with some of those clients, like they want the show to get bigger and bigger and more attendees, and they know like we can handle that. So then what comes with that is like me being able to actually take a whole video crew out there and like, hey, you know, this is the team. I've already built a relationship with them, so like all the vetting and all of that is already done. And then we just go wherever they go. I mean, and it's crazy. I mean, some like we've had to go to Orlando and back to Texas and back home, back to Texas. And it gets a little tough being on the road back to back like that, with me, mainly because I am like the primary person to like take my daughter to school and all the extra activities, because I do have the more free time when I am home. So it gets to be a little bit stressful for the wife, but when it's time to come home, it's time to come home.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome, bro. That's really cool to see, you know, just a year into this, you know, full time. I hate using that word, full time, because
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like when you have a business, it's and when you're serious about your business, it's always gonna be full time.
Right.
You know, you're up late, you know, you're up early, whatever you need to do before your corporate job starts, you do it. You know, and so I don't like negating the fact that, you know, you're putting in the work. Just because we can't see it doesn't
Right.
mean it's not full time to you.
Yeah.
You know, so
It's more of like, it's not necessarily more like full time. It's just more of like, I guess, like full concentration. Cause like when I was working a corporate job, I mean, I can only give my business X amount of energy or hours, right? Just because, especially depending upon what the corporate job is, those things are time consuming. I mean, they're paying you for a reason, you know, to allocate your time and your expertise and your resources towards a certain subject. And usually speaking, like you don't really have much time else to do anything. So now that I've been full time, I can give my business like the full attention. But even then, it still has been a process of me doing that because I've been so used to working another job where I had certain expectations or time commitments to that job, where now it's like even like today, like I don't have any shoots today. And then I'm just kind of like, all right, so what do I do? Like, do I work on lead generation? Do I work on content? Like I'm still trying to build like that flow of how to work on the business on days where I'm not out in the field.
That's good. So we've talked through, just a little bit about your story, how you got started, leaving your corporate job, and then now, just your full attention on your business, and talk about a little bit about just the strategy you've used, which is, word of mouth. But when it comes to word of mouth, it's like your work needs to be good in order for that person to refer you to that person anyway. But I feel like it's usually a good thing when people come to you versus you trying to find people.
Right.
Because it's like, okay, you've come to me, you've seen my work, it's good. I don't have to try to sell you on my work.
Right.
So 50% of the job is done. Now all we have to talk about is just what you need. And it's like me just asking you questions, and figure it's a conversation at that point.
Yep.
Figure out like what you need. And I think that's why like either warm leads or hot leads in this case, it's something that is better than a cold lead for you trying to reach out to people. And I think that's why building your personal brand is a huge thing, or your business brand, however fit you see it. I think it's a good thing because now people know, like, and trust you by seeing your content. Now moving into that, because you talked about, creating content a little bit. I've seen, some of the content that you created and then you stop.
Yep.
And I think you should continue because it's good stuff, and I think that's the way that people are going to continue to come to you without you having to go to them. So what is some of the content, strategies or just content creation that you have done?
Yeah, man. It's like, what's funny is I actually just created like a content plan for the remaining the year, like the rest of the year, and failing miserably at it. But man, it's just one of those things where it's like you just really have to prioritize making your content, and it's tough to do, especially like, and I feel weird. I feel weird making my own content, knowing that I have other deliverables due to clients, right? And I can't. I feel like it's weird for me to make content of my own and not deliver somebody's video that's due or that's coming up due, right? Because now it looks to the client, it looks like, oh, like you got time to work on that, but where's my stuff? So essentially, like the only time that you see me make content is usually like when I'm all caught up, because now I feel like, oh, I've gotten all my deliverables out. Now I could post my own content. But then you only have stretches of those, like you only have small windows of those, because you always got a editing project in the bay, like at all times. I think it's just something that maybe like it's a conversation I need to have with the client. Like, some clients, like when they pay you, I mean, they do expect a deliverable. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is some might think you don't do anything else but work on my deliverable. And I think there just need to be like an understanding, like, hey, I do other stuff other than just work on your deliverable. So there's times where I won't post because it's like I don't want it to look weird, or I don't want the client to be upset that I'm posting other stuff and I haven't delivered their content. But that brings me to another point. something that I want to focus on is doing projects where I'm not the only person working on the project, because that's how you get bottlenecked. When you're the shooter, you're the producer, you're the editor, you're the colorist, now you become the audio person. And when you have all these responsibilities and it's just you leave yourself no sort of room to do anything else but work on these projects. And like what I've been talking to like Darrell about, and what we're going to be talking about, is like doing projects where the client can't afford for other people to be brought on the project to accelerate it. Because even the projects that I have right now in the Bay, I always think back, like, if I had an editor to work on this project, this client probably would have got this back. But when I'm the one and all, I'm putting too much on myself to do that and keep it timely and keep it well. And it just gets to be too tough.
Yeah. And it's hard finding someone that just wants to focus on editing too.
Exactly.
Because there was this guy, I talked to him, it actually was the one that reached out to me, right? Like through a mutual friend. And it was supposed to start editing for me. Like literally, bro. We're messaging, right? I sent him what the project is, like I wanted to edit. And all of a sudden, like his page just goes off.
Yeah.
Like
just goes.
Like I can't find his page anymore. I'm like, what the heck happened?
Right.
And I was really excited because, bro, I have so much sitting for me to edit. I'm talking about, I probably have like 5 different projects right now that I need to like just knock out and push out in the next 2 weeks.
Right.
And I'm like, how am I going to get that done?
How are you going to get it done?
But to go back to your point about like clients looking at, you posting and not giving them their deliverables, in a sense, I think I want to challenge you in a sense of they're using your video to build their business.
Right.
And you need to use your video to build your business.
I agree.
Yeah.
And
no matter what people are going to see, say, whatever, someone's always going to have something to say. So, but if you're doing yourself, I think you're doing yourself a disservice in a sense that you're not pushing yourself more out there.
Right.
Because there's a lot more that you could get done. But again, it gets back to like, okay, if I get more clients, how am I even going to edit this in the first place? Right. But we're building that personal brand, man. And I'm actually I'm off of social for a complete month. Like I'm taking a break. Like I haven't done this in a couple of years. Prior to like being consistent on social, I had this hate and love relationship with social, where it's like, all right, I'm there, but I don't want to be there. It's become so political and a lot of nonsense on there. And then I would just bounce for like months, until I was like, okay, this is actually a tool for my business. The more that I'm out there, yes, maybe not all of my followers are engaging, but they're seeing it.
Right.
They might not engage, but they're seeing it. And it becomes where it's like my name is at the forefront of what this topic is that I'm trying to push out there. And when they need that person, I'm the first person to think about. Yeah. And so that's why I'm like, yeah, bro, I think it'll be good for you.
And it's tough because it's like, as busy as I am, at times I don't look that busy because I don't post it. But it's like, there's times where I was like, man, like this BTS would be like a dope shot. But then I'd be like, but I got 5 projects to edit.
I feel you.
And it's just like, I don't want to be that, I don't know. Maybe the client will get mad. Maybe they won't. And I might be assuming that they get mad. Maybe they won't. Maybe they might understand like, hey, they booked me for a reason. They know I have quality work and they know that I'm not going to be the only client that they work with. But I just feel weird just doing it, man.
Nah, I get you. I feel like you're also an introvert, right?
I am. For the most part, I am. Except for like when I get around like the homies. Yeah.
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 We're chilling then.
Yeah, we chill. I'm pretty all out when I'm with the
Yeah,
homies, but
nah, I get you. Yeah, and I think that's sometimes that's a thing in the back of our heads. I'm an introvert too. Like, I'd rather just be by myself, let me do my own thing.
Right.
Like I'm cool, chilling by myself. But when I'm out and about and doing my work, my job, then the extroverted part of me has to come out.
It has to.
It has to. And then by the end of the day, I'm like exhausted. I'm like,
Drains.
man, I've been talking all day. People are like, why's your voice cracking? I'm like, yo, I don't talk this much,
Right.
but
And
I'm
you got to
out
come
here.
home to your family.
Yeah. And I still got to put my energy back up. Like yesterday, I was gone all day. Got back. I left the house about 7:30. Got back home at like 5. It's like I got to put second gear in.
They don't
But
care.
those kids don't care. They're like jumping on you, like, hey, daddy's home.
They don't care you've been out all day.
Yeah.
And, and that's the thing too, where I talk about doing projects where you can bring on more people so that way that workload can be spread out. Because, what's the point in working extremely hard and working all day and all night, and you make a lot of money, but then you come home, you have no energy for the family. It's almost like, what's the point?
Right. For sure.
Because you can't even come home and enjoy it. And during the pandemic, while I was working on like building the business up and working for the church, there was plenty of times where it was like that, where I was completely exhausted from doing all this stuff, to the point where, like on Saturdays and Sundays, if I did have a free Saturday and Sunday, I just want to chill at the crib. But my family, they want to go do all this stuff because they haven't seen daddy all week, or haven't engaged with daddy all week because I've been out working and busy, to where now when they do have some time, I have no energy to do it. And that's why I want to do projects where it's more people, so the way I'm not burning myself out. I can give back some of that time to the family because they deserve it. I mean, there's no point in working hard and if I can't really enjoy it with them.
Yeah, especially if you say you're working for them,
Right, exactly.
You're working, to provide for your family. And it's like provision goes more than just financial,
Exactly.
And so, so we've had a good conversation, just
sure.
building your business and, talking about like getting your clients. And obviously it's, and if we feel like we get to this point and it's like still so many walls to climb, and that's exactly where I am, just feeling like, like I've accomplished a lot, but I've accomplished nothing at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, I've kind of set my eyes on like get the business rolling to where I can then focus on the projects that I really want to work on. Right? And that's going to require more than just me, like to really get to that point. And that's like the battle that I have, is because like I don't necessarily want to create the business to where I have like all these employees. Like I'm not trying to create like this big employee-based business. But I do want to create projects that include multiple people on a regular basis. So that way that brings in revenue, and then I can really work on the stuff. Cause like, I've been kind of like, since I've been doing this now, like the past like 4 or 5 years, I'm starting to notice, okay, like what do you like to do and what do you don't like to do? And it takes time to really figure that out, because there were times where I felt like I really enjoyed doing event videos. Now I can't stand to do event videos. It's just not my thing. It's not my thing anymore. It's
Actually, like doing event videos.
It's just like, for me, it's just like pray and spray.
Yeah.
Right?
I get what you
For the most part.
I get what you
Unless you really got creative and you really like sat down and like storyboarded how you want it to go. But oftentimes for some of these gigs that we do, like they just want you to come and just shoot a bunch of stuff. And it's just not, like, I just fell out of love with it while I loved it at first. But now I want to transition to more like short films. And that's something that like I really want to focus on is short films that tell stories and struggles, but from the Christian perspective. Because I feel like at times there's plenty that we all go through the same things to a degree or in a sense, but at times like we are afraid to share those things that we may struggle or go through. So I feel like telling it in a short form would help or encourage other people. That's the goal that I really want to get to.
Yeah, man. That's cool. Short films are fun, man.
They are, and I've helped. And what kind of got me into short films is I helped shoot a couple of my buddies' short films. I had no interest in them, like at all. And then I helped shoot some of his, and I seen like his process of like writing it, doing like table reads, and like really getting creative, and then doing it with, and when we shot these short films, like we didn't really have budget at all. It was just more of like a bunch of homies coming together. It was like, hey, we want to work on this passion project. You know, I got this one day where I'm free.
Yeah.
I want to give it to this passion project, and we go out and shoot it, and it comes out really good. And it's just like, wow, like after doing that over and over with him, like I really do enjoy that process. So it's something that I want to explore. But I know in order to do that, you got to have some motion on the back end that's providing a revenue, so the way you can't have that time to do that.
That's good. So that's where you see yourself going eventually.
Yeah, of course. I think I'll always be tied to live events and like live production, like for the conferences. I mean, that's something that I love doing. I mean, I do it right now, so to speak, at my church. So like the live corporate stuff, I always love doing that. But as far as like doing like event recaps and highlights, maybe I'll just pass those to you now,
bro. Those are,
since you love them.
I've done way too much of those. I've done a lot, in a sense, where it's like I think my first one was like 2018, where it's like it's a 10-hour or 24-hour turnaround time. You know,
those are tough.
You know, we film all day, and before the night is done, we already have the recap done. And I did that so many times where it's like, okay, I now have some kind of like formula to what I follow, you know. And when I did that, it was with Hip Hop International, big dance competition, you know, bunch of countries, 167 countries or so, you know, come together and they compete with dancing. And I stayed in this resort for like 10 days, and we're filming all day. We're editing all night.
That's
we're
crazy.
Sleeping for like maybe 3-4 hours. Wake up, do it all over again. Did that for 10 days straight. Did that 2 years in a row. They wanted me to come back. They wanted me to come back, but I'm too busy for all that now. So it's a good place to be, but that's where I really fell in love with doing that. And then I've done conferences, I've done other events outside of that I'm like, okay, I know how to tell that story, you know, so.
But that's like the beauty though, in like even having like a network of guys or like a group of guys that you work with, is because, you know, I get asked for those all the time. And I'm usually like, no, like, you know, I'm booked.
Yeah.
But now knowing that like there's other people that really enjoy doing that, like.
Depends on the event too, though.
That's true.
I don't take on any kind of event.
That's true.
It just depends on what it is. So, yeah, man. All right, this has been good, bro. If you have like any last words of wisdom to drop, what would that be? Yeah,
man. So just from experience, right? Working a corporate job and working on your business at the same time. If I had to do it all over again, what would I do? Because I know there's people that just want to leave their job to go pursue whatever it is, right? My biggest regret while doing that, while I loved being able to buy gear and buy equipment and kind of like build up this huge stash of tools and resources to enhance the business, you got to have a exit plan also of like, if you are going to exit that job, of saving money or having some sort of revenue plan to leave that job to then, while you're working on the full-time business or while you're working in the business full-time, you do have some revenue or some sort of money there. So for me, when I was working my corporate job, those was like paying the bills and all that stuff. And like I said, pretty much all the dollars from the business went right back into the business, almost like a dollar for dollar type of thing. I wish I would have saved a little bit of that money to kind of give me more of a cushion during the transition. Even though my corporate job did give me a severance package, so that in a sense worked for that scenario, but not all the time you will get that. And I was extremely blessed to have a severance package that basically, like, if I got laid off in August, my severance package had basically paid me from September to like January or February. So that was my cushion during the transition, and I'm super grateful and blessed that I had that opportunity to get that. But then I think back like, dang, what if I did not have that severance package? That would have been extremely tough. So that would be my words of wisdom. If somebody is trying to figure out quitting their job, going full time, do it as long as you can until you can't. Because like, we didn't even talk about it, but even having benefits is a whole nother conversation, right? Like, even that gets hairy going full time, and people don't really think about that.
Right.
When they go full time in the business, like, you got to figure all that out on your own, and it's not cheap, and it's not fun to be searching on the market for health insurance just to take care of you and your family.
That's big. Yeah, for sure. That's good, man. So if you're thinking about quitting your job, make sure your job could actually, or your business, makes more than what your job does now, plus more before you do think about quitting. And if you do, have an exit plan. So
have an exit plan, and just know your job might be 9 to 5, but your business might be 24 hours with no PTO,
basically,
no benefits.
Yeah.
So you got to be ready for that.
Yeah. But then it's rewarding, though.
It is extremely rewarding.
Extremely.
Like, even for me to be able to take time out of money to do this, like, you typically can't do that if you're working a job. So while it's extremely rewarding, it's also extremely tough.
Yeah.
And I think some people underestimate what it's really like to run and operate a business, especially when you got to feed your family.
Yeah. That's good.
But yeah.
Good. It's good stuff. Well, thank you for joining us, bro.
For sure.
Appreciate you. Like everyone that is listening, we always end this by saying, your creators create, so go create something. Peace.